Hello, this is Little Green Ghouls, and welcome to Goosebumps Revisited, or should I say, welcome to Dead House. During this series, I will be breaking down the classic Goosebumps books, as well as any TV episodes that go along with it. I'll keep track of common trends throughout the series, and keep a running total as I work my way through the original 62 books. As a kid, I was obsessed with Goosebumps. It was the first book series I truly got into, and it definitely sent me down that pathway to horror fandom. I remember checking out whatever I could get my hands on at the library, and I think I read most of them, with maybe a couple of blind spots. That being said, this little adventure into nostalgia isn't meant to be a serious critique of R.L. Stine or his writing, and it should be viewed with tongue-in-cheek in mind. I loved these books then, and I'm sure I'll enjoy poking at them now. It's been 20 years since I've read a Goosebumps book, and with the power of a drunken eBay purchase, I'm excited to revisit them. So let's get started on our first book, Welcome to Dead House. When I do these episodes, I want to make sure I spend some time on the book cover, since I think that's a big part of what made these such a phenomenon. I'll be focused on the original cover, but I do want to acknowledge the 2003 and 2010 versions. Although the early 2000s version, from what I can tell so far, is just the original with a less interesting border. The original was illustrated by Tim Jacobus, who illustrated 60 out of the 62 original series covers. But before designing the covers, Jacobus would be given a short synopsis and meet with the art directors at Scholastic. Surprisingly, Stine would have no input on the covers. This kind of explains why some of the more misleading covers exist, that we'll see later on in the series. When looking at the cover, I like that if you look closely, you can see somebody in the bottom right window lurking by the curtains. It's not my favorite cover in the end, because it's just a standard looking haunted house, which is also kind of misleading considering the bulk of the story has to do with cannibalistic townspeople. Our front tagline says, "It will just kill you," while our back says, "Look alive." These two tags really could be stuck on any Goosebumps book, and they reveal very little about the plot, so there's nothing too exciting there. When looking at the 2010 version, it keeps the same haunted house vibe, but it kind of strikes me as more of that kids comic book style. I think it's fine, unlike some of the other new book covers which are just like straight up terrible, like Monster Blood. I mentioned earlier that I impulse bought the entire series off of eBay, and the books I got vary in quality to say the least. However, many of them have been fun to look through because they came from libraries, teachers' classrooms, and just personal collections. So they contain doodles, library cards, and just a variety of weird shit. If I come across anything interesting, I'll be sure to share it. I usually really like the back few pages that include merchandise to buy or fan clubs to join, but this first book that I have really doesn't have much in it. It's just a list of other Goosebumps books to buy. Before we jump into my beat-by-beat summary, let's read the official blurb on the back of the book. Amanda and Josh think this old house they have just moved into is weird, spooky, possibly haunted, and even the town of Dark Falls is pretty strange too. But their parents don't believe them. They'll get used to it, they say. Go out and make some new friends. So Amanda and Josh do, but these new friends are not exactly what their parents had in mind, because they want to be friends forever. But now that we've looked at the actual book itself, let's jump into my summary. The book opens with a classic Goosebumps setup. We have a pair of siblings who are in the process of moving to a new town. Amanda Benson, our protagonist, age 12, and Josh Benson, age 11, as our bratty younger sibling. Josh really lives up to his role of annoying younger sibling, and I found myself hoping that the undead mutants would just shred him for everybody's sake. One of the things that always made me laugh, even as a kid with Goosebumps, is Stine's commitment to describing the main character's appearance in the least subtle way possible. It's always like, "Hi, I'm John. I'm 12 years old, 5'2", with brown hair and brown eyes." Amanda and Josh are no exception to this. We quickly learn that they're both tall for their age, with curly brown hair, brown eyes, and serious faces. Their parents get a few characteristics themselves. The dad is overweight, can't keep his shirt tucked in, and struggles to fit in the family car. He's also useless and oblivious to his haunted-ass house. The mom has straight black hair, and her defining characteristics, besides negligent parenting, is that she's extremely irritable. The mom takes situations from a 3 to a 10 multiple times in the story, but I guess living with Josh does that to a person. The family is in the process of moving to Dark Falls after inheriting a house from a great uncle that nobody has any recollection of. But the dad is thrilled to have the opportunity to quit his job and focus on his writing, so he ignores how obviously strange the situation is. The most notable quality of the town is that it's uniquely dark with overgrown trees everywhere, making it a shady town. Our other starring character, Petey, the white terrier, is immediately freaked out by the house and goes ballistic on Mr. Dawes, the local realtor. Mr. Dawes is a fashionista, running around in mid-July wearing a sports coat and black cowboy hat. Josh is being a little shit, which is quickly established as typical, and refusing to enter the house, so he decides to stay outside with Petey, who's running around the yard, escalated and leash-free. Amanda isn't a fan of the house, which is understandable considering it's described as borderline dilapidated, but decides to make the best of it and check out her room. Her room sounds pretty awesome. It has a walk-in closet and a bay window. The only downside is that it seems to be haunted by a little blonde boy, who she sees standing in her doorway, but who then also mysteriously disappears down the hallway. Amanda, not being one to waste time or mince words, immediately walks down the stairs and says, "Hey, Mr. Dawes, is this house haunted?" Amanda heads outside and, oh my god, Josh is missing. Nobody seems to be able to deduce that he's most likely chasing after Petey, who was clearly losing his mind earlier, and they conclude that Josh probably ran off in protest of the move. The family loads up the car and goes looking for him. The mom keeps her cool as usual and immediately begins muttering to herself about killing him. In one instance of choice writing on page 15, Mom is describing how she wants to kill Josh, and then immediately on page 16, the mom says again, "I'll kill him, I really will." Amanda then lets us know it wasn't the first time she said that about Josh. "I know, Amanda, I heard her say it one page earlier too." They eventually find Josh in the cemetery chasing Petey, who is still busy going nuts and he cannot seem to get enough of sniffing them graves. After catching Petey, Mr. Dawes sensibly recommends that getting a leash for the dog. The entire family is aghast because Petey has never been on a leash. They conclude Petey must be overwhelmed by the idea of moving like the kids are, and that's why he's gone rogue. Back at the house, we are treated to a very natural conversation about Mr. Dawes' first name, Compton. It's such an unusual name that surely it must be a family name. No, he assures us, he's the only Compton in his family. It's almost like Stein really wants us to know that he's the only Compton Dawes in this story. Mr. Dawes also wedges in an excellent joke that maybe his parents named him Compton because they couldn't spell Charlie. The rascal. After spending a page on this man's name, we breeze through the next couple of weeks and this family prepares for the official move to Dark Falls. Amanda spends the day, and I quote, "I walked around the house thinking how I'd never see my room again, how I'd never have breakfast in this kitchen again, and how I'd never watch TV in the living room again. Morbid stuff like that." Amanda and I have very different definitions of morbid. Also, because this is pre-cell phones, Amanda describes going to her room and staring at the drywall for literal hours. We also learn some of Amanda's friends that she'll miss. The highlight being Kathy. According to Amanda, people are surprised Kathy and her are such good friends, for an interesting reason. Kathy is chubby, blonde, and short. So clearly they shouldn't be such good friends, they're physical opposites. It's also important that you know this for some reason, and Kathy never comes up in any meaningful way again. After 5 pages of filler, we finally start our journey back to Deadhouse. In the car, Josh continues to be an ass and decides to howl along with the dog in protest of the move. The mom displays her defining characteristic trait once again in a lovely conversation with the dad. "Let's all try really hard not to get on each other's nerves," Mom suggested. Dad laughed. "Good idea, dear." "Don't make fun of me," she snapped. Mom then proceeds to spend the rest of the ride literally screaming about the dog until they finally arrive. Upon their arrival, they immediately let Petey out of the car without a leash on and begin moving into their new home. But wait, Amanda sees a boy in the upstairs window. Amanda tells her mom, but she doesn't give two shits, and is too busy to deal with any potential home intruders. Her mom concludes it must be a shadow from a tree. Amanda is forced to check it out herself, because literally no one else cares that someone else could potentially be upstairs. She cautiously checks out her room, and suddenly, the boy grabs her shoulder from behind. Oh wait, it's just a chapter break, so it was only Josh being a little prankster. After Josh moves on, Amanda continues to think she hears whispering in her room, but she decides it has to be her window making human noises. Amanda then decides to scare Josh by sticking her legs out of her closet while moaning. This apparently works. We then cut to that night, and Amanda is reminiscing on the prank she pulled and unpacking her clothes as she chuckles to herself like a little old man. What a day. Amanda is clearly on edge though, because while laying in her bed, her back itches and she immediately concludes, the bed is filled with bugs. Nope, just her usual sheets. She eventually falls asleep, only to wake up shivering and finds all of her covers on the floor. She notices the curtains blowing and goes to close the window, only to discover that it's already shut. She's able to convince herself that this is fine, and goes back to sleep where she has a nightmare. Both the waking up to the blowing curtains and dream sequences are well done. If I had read this when I was 8 years old, I would have been effectively creeped out. In her nightmare, she dreams that her whole family is dead, casually sitting around eating a pile of bones, while the skin rots off their faces. The next morning, she tells her father about the curtains moving around, and he says he'll fix it, stating that maybe there's a leak in the seal, or maybe a missing window pane. I would hope that he has more faith in his daughter, and that she would notice a giant section of glass missing, but he doesn't. Although home repair may not be his forte, considering when the mom comments how damp the house is, his response is that the sunshine will dry it out, because that's how houses work. After breakfast, Stein shows his keen insight to the child mind by having Amanda state how much she loves washing the dishes. By 8 a.m., the parents have already had enough of their children and send them out to explore the neighborhood. While getting ready, Amanda spots a girl at the top of the stairs and starts screaming. Her dad appears and suggests it was just a pile of clothes, and then imparts these words of wisdom to his daughter. Stop seeing things, okay? Josh then reveals to Amanda that he also had a nightmare about boys whispering. Given this information, Amanda concludes that they both must be nervous about the move, and feels relief. As they are leaving, it's noted that Amanda notices the house next door for the very first time, so maybe Amanda isn't the most reliable narrator. They then proceed to walk Petey without a leash to the nearby school. While walking, a creepy child named Ray pops out. Oddly enough, Ray is wearing black jeans, a maroon sweater, with a baseball cap tucked into his back pocket, in the middle of July. Ray gives us some blatant foreshadowing when Amanda says, "It sure is dead around here," and he chuckles and responds, "I guess you could say that." Spooky. Amanda realizes Ray was the boy in the window, which he denies, but lets her know he used to live in her house. Meanwhile, Petey is trying to murder Ray, so they reluctantly put the little beast on a leash for the first time in his life. Ray takes them towards the school when they suddenly run into a group of 10 to 12 kids, all dressed in long dark clothes and hats for the summer. The kids are aggressively weird, and keep laughing to themselves and proceed to circle up around Josh and Amanda with baseball bats in hand. Amanda understandably thinks they're about to straight up get jumped, when suddenly Mr. Dawes appears and the kids all revert to normal. Amanda quickly forgets she almost got curb stomped and agrees to play baseball with these demon children. While playing, another girl, Karen Somerset, mentions how she used to live in Amanda's house too. But before Amanda can learn more, the kids all scatter home because the sun is coming out. Weeks pass. Amanda continues hearing whispering in her room. The curtains are still out of control. However, she's decided the best course of action is just to ignore it all and pretend it's all peachy keen. Petey is still pissed and the kids are still sad that they have to keep him on a leash to prevent him from mauling the neighbors. Eventually, while playing baseball with the local feral children, Petey breaks free and the siblings get lost looking for him. Actually, no, they aren't lost. We just spend multiple pages describing how lost they are, only for them to keep walking in the same direction and realize where they are without any issue whatsoever. They conclude Petey must have went home, and when they get there, they are shocked to see that Petey is in fact not home. They tell their parents Petey is missing, who, in usual fashion, cannot be bothered. The dad is too busy with house stuff, and the mom is oddly insistent that they eat PB&J sandwiches before she'll help them look for the family dog. They don't find him, and naturally, the parents decide to call the police. But nothing comes of that. The parents suddenly remember that they have a neighborhood potluck to attend. They then leave their two less than capable children home alone. Amanda goes to her room and notices that her clothes are scattered all over the room. She assumes it was just her mom being over the laundry, which I guess isn't the worst assumption to make, considering her mom's temper, and she continues to hear whispers and goes to sleep. After midnight, Josh wakes Amanda up, telling her that he's realized Petey must be in the graveyard and that he's headed to find him before their parents get home. Why no one thought to search there earlier in the day, considering that's where he ran to last time, is not explained. Amanda decides to go with him, and neither child questions what kind of neighborhood potluck runs well past midnight. Josh brings his halogen flashlight, and for the rest of this book, instead of saying flashlight, we will emphasize that it is a halogen flashlight. Is this relevant later? Maybe, but not really. While on their way to the cemetery, they run into Ray, who explains that he had trouble sleeping and is out for a walk. The kids accept this and continue on their way. Ray realizes they are headed for the cemetery and insists that this is a terrible idea. Rather than using his words, Josh just takes off running, ignoring Ray's pleas, with Amanda in close pursuit. While searching the cemetery, they come across an amphitheater next to a giant tree that looks like it's ready to fall over. Ray explains that the graveyard amphitheater is where they basically hold their town hall meetings. Amanda doesn't really question this like your average person might, and they just continue on. They spot Petey, but he doesn't seem himself. He stinks like a dead rat, has red eyes, and keeps running away from them like he doesn't know them. Although obedience hasn't really been his strong suit for most of the book, so I'm surprised they noticed this. While chasing Petey for the 900th time, they notice that the gravestones have the names of the local children they've been playing baseball with. These gravestones are kind enough to list all of the local kids we've met in order, including Karen Somerset, the only demon kid who really gets lines in the story because she chats with Amanda during the game. Well, the only other demon kid besides Ray because, surprise, his eyes are red and he's actually dead. Ray explains that he's the Watcher, and that it's his job to make sure that the new family doesn't catch on to the local deadness, and to ensure that the family doesn't get eaten by some of the over-eager townspeople before the designated sacrifice time. He reveals that they've killed Petey, because they always kill the dog first, since dogs can recognize the undead. This explains Petey's aggressive behavior. Ray apologizes while his eyes glow red and he starts to float somehow, while also choking, blinding, and suffocating Amanda. Both choking and suffocating seems a bit redundant to me, but the point is Amanda is dying. Josh appears with his halogen flashlight and ends up accidentally melting Ray. The beam of the halogen flashlight melts the skin off his face, revealing a gray skull, while his eyes fall out and roll into the grass. The skeleton body eventually collapses and cracks its skull on the tombstone. I enjoyed how gross this was. You'd think that our two heroes would realize the power of the halogen flashlight, but you'd be mistaken. They race home only to find that their parents are still at the potluck. This is where I really lost faith in these two. You'd think after hearing that the town is potentially crawling with the undead, they'd realize that maybe this potluck was a ruse, but no. They then end up getting cornered by the demon kids in Amanda's bedroom, when suddenly Mr. Dawes appears and the kids scatter. Mr. Dawes explains that he was at a potluck with their parents when the neighbors all started acting weird and they had escaped together. He then tells Amanda and Josh that their parents are waiting safely at the graveyard amphitheater and they just need to get in his car and go with him. Since Amanda and Josh have established critical thinking as a character weakness, they hop into the car and head to the cemetery. In fact, Josh doubles down on the stupidity, stating in the car while referring to the upcoming dawn, "I brought my flashlight just in case, but I probably won't need it." After just melting a kid with it and coming from a room full of demon children. Once they reach the graveyard, Josh for the 901st time sees Petey and goes chasing after him. Amanda conveniently realizes she forgot to mention that the dog is dead to Josh because it's just been so crazy. Amanda finds herself running after Josh again when they just so happen to trip over Compton Dawes' gravestone. We then run through Amanda's thought process where she explains in detail how it has to be his grave and not his father's or his grandfather's, because also explained in detail earlier that he was the only Compton in his family. That means he's an undead mutant too. Compton then takes the time to clear up any lingering questions. The kids learn that this entire town suffered an industrial accident, where the local plastic plant released a yellow gas and caused all this. The yellow gas is doing a lot of heavy lifting for this plot because we learned that the gas killed the entire town, made them the living dead, created the need for a yearly family sacrifice so they don't revert to the actual dead, and that they put this sacrificial family in the dead house each year. We put this all together with the sentence, "The yellow gas from the plastics factory made the town this way." Amanda suddenly remembers
the halogen flashlight
can melt the undead. But oh no, Josh's stupid ass broke it chasing after the damn dog. Josh has a moment of clarity and chucks the halogen flashlight at Mr. Dawes' face. He gets him good and reveals a chunk of his skull. They are able to run away by staying in the light of dawn while Mr. Dawes pursues them in the shadows. The kids suddenly notice that the entire town is lurking in the shadows and that they are headed towards the amphitheater. They decide to sneak there too, to see if they can save their parents. They hide behind a tree that is so massive that its shade covers the entire outdoor amphitheater, which also allows the entire town to calmly take their seats as their parents sit tied back to back at the bottom of the theater. If their parents were better communicators, they could stand up like Cusco and run for the light. The kids decide that they can push this giant tree over and flood the amphitheater with sunlight. Just as they realize this, the entire town starts moving towards their parents for a blood feast. The tree doesn't move at first, and we get a chapter cliffhanger, but guess what, wouldn't you know it did fall over. Our heroes topple this massive tree with, I'm assuming, the kind of strength moms get when they lift cars off their kids. The sunlight does its thing and proceeds to turn the entire town into dust, but not before Karen looks at Amanda and thanks her for killing her, while the flesh melts off her face. It's nice that Karen and Amanda form such a close bond in the 4 sentences she was mentioned. At this point, Stein is ready to wrap this shit up and has the family race home. To hop into the car and escape town, right? Wrong. The family takes the time to arrange for movers and packs up the whole house before heading back to their old home. As they start to finally drive away, Amanda hops out of the car to get one last look at Deadhouse. Apparently she's standing there zoning out for a while when a new family pulls up. It's revealed that this lovely family of 4 bought the house and are getting ready to move in. Amanda thinks she sees Mr. Dawes standing on the porch holding a clipboard. Suddenly, her parents start honking because they're over waiting for her, and she takes off down the block without bothering to look back, effectively sentencing another family to death. And that's it. That's the end. When looking at the TV episode, it's a simple 2-parter that keeps most of the plot elements from the book. In the episode, Karen and her family play a larger part by being nosy neighbors. The episode contains a weird plotline with an ugly wreath that somehow acts as a charm that keeps the undead mutants away. That is, until Karen and her family convince them to burn it. This lets the mutants all break into the house. They chase the family up into the attic, where we see the next major difference. Amanda and Josh defeat the undead mutants by unboarding the attic windows, and then melt them with the sunlight. It should be noted also that she spends 30 seconds explaining the sunlight situation versus just ripping down the boards. This change makes sense to me because I still can't fathom how this massive tree and graveyard amphitheater situation worked. We end the episode with the family picking up Petey from the side of the road, but oh no, he's an undead mutant too. This episode contained 8 attempted jump scares. I say attempted because sometimes the score for this show will just play really tense strings with a sudden jump in volume to startle you, but that also happens when somebody just walks in the room. Once I started focusing on the strings, it was very hard to stop, and I'm hoping this isn't a trend for the rest of the series. I thought it had a couple effective creepy moments, especially when the hand bursts through Amanda's closet wall at night, as well as when Josh sticks his hand down into the cellar cracks to grab some change. I thought for sure they were about to grab him and do a jump scare. Instead, it was just an effective use of tension. There were also some unintentional highlights in here too. The house they used was great because it looked nasty as hell, and somebody for sure would get tetanus if they lived there. I thought Amanda's 90s style was fantastic. She was given fashion to rival Mr. Dawes from the book, and she was clearly all about that layering and patches. Speaking of fashion, the hats that these kids wear are hilarious. My favorite was the kid who was to be wearing some sort of like leather bowl hat. Josh even comments on the frequent appearance of stupid hats in this show. I also thought that Karen had a great line.
You told me we had new neighbors. I'm Karen Thurston.
Oh, hi. We met your mom this morning. She's really nice.
She's okay.
We also have some A+ acting from Mr. Dawes, where he's trying his best to convey uneasiness around this wreath. It's very subtle. I also love the mom's reaction to her daughter seeing ghosts and shit. Mr. Dawes has the best line though, where he shouts, "Need you! Come back! Come back! Dark Falls needs you! I'm hungry!" Because it gave me flashback to the best episode of The X-Files of all time.
I'm hungry.
In this case, I thought the book was better than the episode. I don't remember the series well enough to know if this will always be the case, but I thought the book had more scenes that set up some good tension. I thought the book overall did a nice job establishing the fear that comes with moving to a new place, having to meet new people, and not having your parents believe you, which is even more intense when you're a kid. In this case, that fear was justified though, because the house was creepy as shit, and the town was full of undead mutants. I really enjoyed Amanda's nightmare scene, the first couple times we hear the whispering in the curtains, and when Josh liquefied Ray. However, I know I read this one as a kid, and yet I had no real memory of it, outside of like townspeople wanting to kill the family. Overall, I'd give this 4 out of 5 halogen flashlights. Well, now that we've finished looking at the book and the TV series, let me know in the comments what were your thoughts on Welcome to Dead House. Did it rank as one of your favorites? Were you a bigger fan of the book or the TV series? Just let me know below. Part of the reason I wanted to do this series was that I thought it'd be fun to keep track and like keep a running tally of some of the more common Goosebumps cliches. Not all of them will be present in this first book, but I wanted to mention them anyways. So let me know if you have any suggestions for any other ones to keep track of throughout the series while I'm still early into it. It's only a dream. This one's pretty self-explanatory. I recall Goosebumps loving to pull It's Only a Dream fake out, where we think something's actually happening to the character when, oops, it was just a dream, never mind. Welcome to Dead House didn't really have this. It had a dream sequence, but it was clearly established that Amanda was having a nightmare, and we weren't meant to think it was real. For this one, we're tracking all the jokes and pranks the characters of Goosebumps pull on each other. Stein likes his jokesters, so I'm confident we'll see this one pop up often. In Welcome to Dead House, we had 2 pranks. The first was when Josh scared Amanda while she was looking for the ghost boy, and the second was when Amanda decided to play dead in her closet to scare Josh. Getting jiggy with the 90s. This one's just a nostalgia grab, so I'll be counting up anything that makes me think, oh yeah, it's the early 90s. In Welcome to Dead House, we don't really have that many. I counted 4 things. The red station wagon, the slang, like both he's a sicko and he flipped, and Ray running around with a baseball hat in the back of his pocket. This isn't an exact science, it's all about the feeling. Vomit count. This one I'm most concerned about. I'm worried I might be having my own Mandela effect here, but for some reason I remember there being lots of puke or talk of puke in these books. I could just be making this up. We'll find out though. Plus, it gives me an excuse to use Cuddles the hamster. Asshole victim is where a character who's a bit of a jerk has something unpleasant happen to them, usually tying somewhat into the main horror of the book. We didn't have any asshole victims in Welcome to Dead House. Ray was more of an actual monster than an asshole victim. I suppose Petey could be considered an asshole since he spent the book acting out of control, but that was more the result of poor training and the fact that the entire town was full of dead people, and he could tell. Clunky cliffhanger. Goosebumps loves to leave his chapters on a cliffhanger. I'm pretty sure that's why I'd be up well past my bedtime having to read just one more chapter. That being said, my favorite cliffhangers are the clunky ones. So here we'll highlight the worst cliffhanger in the book, as well as the total. In Welcome to Deadhouse, the clunky cliffhanger award goes to chapters 17 to 18, where the tree won't budge, but wait, yes it will, and proceeds to fall over. I counted a total of 12 clear-cut cliffhangers. Shocker ending is just a twist ending. Another thing Goosebumps loves to do. In Welcome to Deadhouse, the twist was that a new family is moving to the house and that maybe the undead mutants are still alive and ready to feast on the next family. Or maybe the twist was that the Bensons were a family of sociopaths all along, since they just left the next family to die. Well, that's it for Welcome to Deadhouse. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I had a lot of fun making this video, and I'm looking forward to Stay Out of the Basement, which is the next book on this journey. Like I mentioned earlier, if there are any other cliches you think would be fun to track, comment them below. Also, let me know what you thought of the video and Welcome to Deadhouse itself. I'm sure you also noticed I included clips from some of my favorite undead films, because why not? Also, let me know some of your favorite zombie movies. Anyways, I'm excited to revisit this series, and if you're interested in following along, make sure you subscribe so I don't vanish into the YouTube ether. Thanks again for watching, and remember, subscribe for
The pride. The love.